Hello and welcome to today, which is my last vlog for the month of June, and today is Tuesday, the 21st of June, the summer solstice for some people, and the 24th of June, of course, will be midsummer here in the Northern Hemisphere. Right, I'll go straight into it. First of all, Lucy from London is a representative of many people who have written to me, and she says, I'm a school teacher and most of my class come to school by train. Some have still got exams to do and will have difficulty getting in because of the strikes. How would you resolve the dispute? Right, so for those of you outside our shores, you may or may not have heard, there's a major train drivers dispute. And for the first time in 30 years, we're going to have the biggest strike. And of course it's coming and affecting people who travel by train. It's coming at the time that we're still having to deal with the economy, and everybody's very stressed, and the issue that's being put forward is that the train drivers earn very good money. In some cases, it's been reported that they earn £64,000 a year. So why should they go on strike for a pay rise? Now, I have two friends that are train drivers, and they tell me they don't earn that sort of money at all. They agree that 1 or 2%, of drivers do earn that sort of money because they drive very sophisticated modern high-speed trains. But the vast majority of drivers don't earn that sort of money at all. But they also agree that they have quite a good whack, and that the actual main issue is health and safety. And they accept with the development of things within the industry, there'll be fewer drivers in the future. So they want to know that they can be, or guaranteed in some sort of way, that they can be redeployed within the industry rather than losing their job altogether. And that's what the dispute is. Over here, the government are sort of taking a stance that they don't really want to get involved with negotiations, but our railways are majority publicly owned. So in my view, the government has to get involved with negotiations at the same time. But we are with a Tory government who don't really like unions anyway. So on a personal basis, I think they're provoking the situation. How would I deal with it? I think, as I've already said, establish the true facts and then just simply discuss how things can be done. And having been on a negotiating team in my time, things can be worked out very easily, and it doesn't necessarily mean an increase in wages. But it's very frustrating because I consider the government stance to be somewhat feckless. But that's probably because they are feckless. Anyway, some people have mentioned that in other countries, public servants, including transport, aren't allowed to go on strike. It's just illegal. But there are negotiating bodies that help out any disputes. I always say to things like that when people put forward an argument, is that the law is actually quite fragile. It only works because the majority of people wish to follow it. But let's say, for example, they say no train drivers can go on strike. What happens if 100,000 train drivers go on strike? Are there 100,000 prison cells? Are there courts that can cope with that number of people? I think not. So the answer is to pull your fingers out on both sides and have sensible talks. So, as I say, in that sense, I consider the government to be somewhat feckless. Right, Tucker Jones. Love that name. Hello, Tucker. Tucker Jones from Baltimore in USA. He says, I'm enjoying your vlogs very much. They're very informative and you have a wonderful turn of phrase. Thank you, Tucker. My question is about Brexit. You have appeared to change your stance on the issue. Could you explain to someone over on this side why that is? Well, Tucker, I think if you listen to my vlogs again, I actually haven't changed my stance. I may have changed some reasons for my thinking. So, for example, ever since I was at school, I've been saying that the European community was getting a little out of hand, and I felt that countries should be allowed to tear up their agreement and renegotiate one. But of course, Europe wasn't going to have that. They're going to be stubborn. We at the time didn't really have effective negotiators, so nothing really happened. And then a small branch of David Cameron. David Cameron was our former Prime Minister, and a small patch of his Tory party were very anti-Europe and wanted to get us out. And because he had a very low majority, he felt he had to sort of agree to a referendum. And the choice was to remain or leave. I personally was of the view, like many, many others, that there should be renegotiate. So there should have been a third question. But we didn't get that. It was in or out, which is fair enough. The Brexiteers didn't, in my opinion, put forward any policies other than that they wanted to leave. And there was no discussion of how we were going to leave or what the effect would be. The only thing in a discussion, political discussion, that I personally heard was that perhaps we would have a problem with inflation initially. But that was the only thing they said. Nobody said how they're going to deal with it, or actually how the divorce was going to be negotiated. And so that's why I voted Remain, because I am by nature quite cautious. But I have to say, I'm not unhappy that we have left. I'm just unhappy with the way we left. And of course, David Cameron didn't think he was going to lose his Remain campaign, so had no contingency plan whatsoever. Should he lose? Likewise, the Brexit team didn't really expect to win. You should have seen Boris Johnson's face the morning after the result. That was clear, and that's why he ran away for 6 months and we never saw him. And they didn't expect to win, so they had no policies in place at all. And what is very clear since the result is that the majority, I would say, of the Brexiteers now can't agree between themselves as to what they actually mean by Brexit. So in my view, both sides were utterly and completely reckless and should be sent to the tower.